Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Austin Peterson here, former presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party. I am the owner of the libertarianrepublic.com, and you're watching the Freedom Report live stream. Welcome to the show. We've got a really interesting topic tonight. We're going to watch a couple of videos. We're going to have a discussion. We're going to talk about guns. Let me preface this by saying I absolutely, positively believe in your right as an individual citizen to bear arms. That individual right has been upheld by multiple Supreme Court cases, such as McDonald versus Chicago, Heller versus the city of Washington, D.C., District of Columbia, District of Criminals, as many of us gun owners know very well. And there are many threats that we face, mostly on a local basis, to our Second Amendment rights, but there are some federal fights to face. The fight that we're looking at today happened in Dearborn, Michigan, where two anarchist, capitalist libertarians, not the commie cons, not the type of anarchists that you're thinking that are breaking down the windows of Starbucks, but two people who call themselves probably libertarians, people who say that they believe in Second Amendment rights. And, I completely support an individual right to bear arms. However, tactics are important, especially when talking about the question of self-defense, which is really what we're talking about here. And as you can see from this table, I am a man who believes in self-defense. Absolutely. More power to you. We're going to watch the video of the open carry event here in just a moment, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows absolutely clear. If you're new to me, there is a history of guns and Austin Peterson and how much I respect the Second Amendment, respect firearms safety, and I respect the right of the individual even to overthrow and abolish a tyrannical government with firearms if necessary. So if those gay couples who want to get married decide that we're going to have a revolution, and by God, if we need guns, then you got to have the right to have guns. But what we saw today was two gentlemen who took off their fedoras, milady, and they decided to put on ski masks and walk into a police station. Now, we could talk about the ethics, the philosophy, the Constitution, and all of our rights. But we also always want to think about tactics, right? You don't want to, point loaded firearms at people, right? We learned this in gun safety class, and you're not pointing a gun at anybody. There's the question of whether you should conceal carry or open carry, and concealed carry should be your absolute right. The only permit that you need, as a good Ron Swanson libertarian might say, is the Second Amendment. I don't think you really need to have a permit just to conceal carry. You shouldn't. And in Missouri, where constitutional carry was passed, we have the right to conceal carry here in Missouri, and hallelujah for that. So now that I've gotten that epic up front, just so you know, no holds barred, like I said in the libertarian debate, we have the right to bear arms. And, if you've watched my debates for President of the United States, you know that I'm a believer in the Second Amendment. But, I'm not wearing my fedora, am I? No, because I know, and when you watch this video, you'll know what strategy means, and we're going to show you bad strategy, and I'm going to show you good strategy, and we're going to talk about what strategy really means when you're talking about defending the right to bear arms, not just whipping it out and showing it around for everybody. As my friend Matthew Mahler said, it's like, everybody knows that men have a penis, right? But nobody wants to have you whipping around, waving around, and that's great that you have one, right? Right. Anyways, but let's see these guys whip it out because they're cool and they want to show what big brass balls they have. Let's just watch what happens to the big men with the big brass balls and watch what happens. We're going to pull the video up now, and you guys enjoy.
Outside Dearborn Police Station, we're going to go in and file a complaint because we were illegally pulled over about an hour ago.
Two men claim to be have been illegally pulled over. Okay, well, if they were illegally pulled over, then that's certainly something to complain about.
We felt a little afraid for our lives when we were pulled over, so we figured we better protect ourselves. Dude, put that on the ground! Put it on the ground! Put it on the ground! I'm not telling you to put it on the ground now! Put it on the ground or you are dead! Listen, I will shoot you! I will put a round in you, sir! Put that rifle on the ground! Take it off your neck! I will take it off! Take it off your neck now! Take it off your neck! What the hell's the matter with you? Y'all calm down? Put it down! Barrel...
Put it down, as they say. Put it down. Get to the chopper. No, sorry, this isn't a Pinochet moment. Okay. No, so let's talk about that for just a second. What were they doing? Now, they say they were illegally pulled over. We don't know about the facts of that just yet. The facts that we do know right now, just that are two men in ski masks walk into a police department in Dearborn, Michigan, and nobody knows who they are, and so they decide they get put to the ground, arrested, and now they're being investigated. Well, in the United States, if the police have a reasonable suspicion that you could be a criminal, they can hold you for up to 24 hours, and if you have not committed a crime, well, then, of course, you can be let go. It's being said that they are being charged with resisting arrest. Of course, if they didn't commit a crime, then the charges of resisting arrest should theoretically be dropped. However, depending on what's on these two paths in their background, they may be facing some charges, of course. There is a thing in some states called criminal threatening, of course, but we're not for sure what their behavior is. We don't know too much about the background of these two men, although I did do some research on them today and took a look into just a little bit about their personal history, and there doesn't seem to be much other than the fact that they are tied to the same movement that I call myself, which is the Libertarian movement. And of course, we as Libertarians believe we should police our own. And here's the problem that I have with someone who claims to be defending themselves when it comes to using open carry or concealed carry. Of course, I prefer to conceal carry. And the reason why I prefer to conceal carry rather than open carry is because if I ever need to carry my AR-15 out in public, well then, if you see it, then I've already made a mistake. You understand? If you really want and need to carry the AR-15 rifle, well then perhaps, or the AK-47, as it was said, was cheaply furnished in the news. Guys, you might want to do an upgrade. Not that this thing doesn't need an upgrade too, but I'm just saying, if you're going to be in a situation where you have to defend yourself against armed cops, I'm thinking that a cheaply furnished AK-47 is not going to be your best bet. So, bad tactics. And the problem, of course, there is that if you're not even smart enough to really defend your own life against something that would be a hostile threat in such a way, you're not really taking your self-defense seriously, and no one is taking you seriously. You're a fedora wearer. And that's, in the neckbeard pejorative way. But I mean, what I'm trying to say here is that, gentlemen, is that there is a severe lack of testosterone in the act of which you're doing. Because if you had the big brass balls that you claim to have, you would have the courage of your convictions. If Judge Andrew Napolitano and Ron Paul were open carrying on the streets and saying it's time for revolution, I would be going. But do you think that the liberty movement is going to get behind two edgy ANCAP idiots who take cheaply furnished AK-47s into a police station and you're going to gather support for that? It's just like you have the right to say it. Your free speech when you're an idiot, when you say something like, oh, I'm a Nazi, screw the Jews. Yeah, you have every right to say that, but you're a jerk. Just like, baking the cake, right? If you don't want to bake the cake, I'm not going to force you not to bake the cake, but, maybe you're a jerk. And that's the problem that we have in this society, is that everybody's so edgy and everybody wants to out-edge each other that, that we decide that we have to do the equivalent, the leftist equivalent of, breaking a Starbucks window when you walk in, and it's like, you're making everybody look bad. So, bad actors deserve to be called out by free speech, which is exactly what I'm doing. And the thing is that there is a way to defend yourself, to defend your rights. If you want to make a statement, make a point in which you don't have to actually put anybody into danger. And I'm going to show you that here in just a moment while we're on the topic of guns and gun rights. But I just want to make sure that we understand here that when we're talking about actual safety and security and self-defense, yes, you have the right to open carry. The problem is that when you're carrying a long gun into a scenario such as this, people expect that you're going to use it. So if you had gotten shot, for example, yeah, we may look back and say, well, technically they weren't actually harming anyone. But if you walked into my private store with a ski mask and I wouldn't say assault rifle because we don't know if it's fully automatic, right? A semi-automatic long gun, then I would say that, no one's going to cry over your dead body. And certainly I think that anybody who, in terms of threatening, if you walk into a place, even a public place with that, you're going to get some looks. So if you have a long gun, you decide to put it into play, again, your tactics suck. The thing is that there's a really famous saying that not a lot of libertarians know, but if you're ever in a fair fight, your tactics suck. And these two ANCAPs walked into not a fair fight, guys. I laughed so hard today when I saw the article said cheaply furnished AK-47s. You ain't even gonna get a hollow mag on that. You're not gonna, like, how many rounds did you carry, guys? Like, you do realize they have an armory at the police station, right? Like, you're not patriots. I'm sorry. You may think you are, but you're really just trumped up truck nuts without the actual testicles that it would be required to conduct a revolution, which is in essence what you are trying to claim the mantle of. Listen, bro, let your betters handle this stuff. I'm sorry, not to be all elitist and crap, but, you know, if you don't have the basic understandings of self-defense, let other people lead. You know, lead, follow, or get out of the way. I know you feel like you want to be a leader. Not everybody can be a leader, guys. You're not leaders. You're not making anybody feel cool. You're just acting like a couple of punks. And if you feel like your rights are violated, if you felt like you were violated at a truck stop or at a stop, then, you know, you have legal recourse for means like that, and I'll back you up. But what kind of idiots, if you want backup, what kind of idiots walk into the police station with ostensibly loaded firearms? We don't know yet, but we'll find out. And if your guns weren't loaded, guys, again, how are you going to defend yourselves? So we've got a lot of details to come out on this story yet, but I'm going to finish this with showing you guys a little bit about some of my activism history, actually, when it comes to firearms and the Second Amendment, because as many of you know, there was a threatened march on Washington, D.C. in 2013 by Anarchist Libertarian himself, Mr. Adam Kokesh, who said, we're going to have an armed march on Washington, D.C. We're going to carry our unloaded firearms in Washington. And he was, in essence, stirring up conflict with the sheriff of Washington, D.C. And they said, if you come in, you better be ready to face the full might of the federal officers. Because if you didn't know, actually, the District of Columbia is under federal control. The local officers are feds. You're not a good leader by putting your men into bloodbath. I mean, if you two are brothers to stick up for one another, yeah, you think two guys is enough to take on a whole police department? You're going to defend yourself? What are you going to do? Go out in a blaze of glory and you think people are going to feel bad for you? Nobody's going to feel bad for you, bro, except for a few more edgy ANCAP morons who agree with you. And that's the truth. Nobody's going to feel bad for you. We're not going to send we're not going to send flowers to your family. That's not what happens. You know, for great warriors, the ones who die on the field of battle, there are flowers at their graves, I guarantee you. They build statues to those guys, actually, in Washington, D.C. Real American heroes and patriots, the type of people who had to wield a gun to defend their country, or even perhaps the Battle of Athens. If you've never read the story of the Battle of Athens, I'll tell you, in Etowah County, Tennessee, there was a case after World War II of World War II vets who had come back. Their local town was corrupt. They were stealing ballots of the ballot box, and the local sheriff and the congressman were in on it. And the World War II vets, they marshaled their rifles and they stormed the jail. They stormed the jail. So they had balls, those World War II veterans. They had courage. They may have been wearing fedoras when they were attacking the local jail, but at least they never let the cops see their guns. And, again, if you're so stupid that you're going to carry a gun and think that the cops aren't going to see it and that you're not going to get mowed down, you're not going out in a blaze of glory, pals. You're just going out in a blaze, and we're all going to laugh at you. So, you're not a hero. You definitely are not on the path to martyrdom. You guys are losers, and you need to stop putting other people in danger. And don't call yourselves libertarians. Just call yourselves anarchists, okay? Because libertarians got it bad enough already with people making us look bad and looking like idiots and defending heroin to 5-year-olds and stupid people who think that, what if the child consents, though? And that's the problem with the libertarian movement, is if you want to be taken seriously, then you got to stop it with this stupid crap. I'm going to show you an example of how to be a positive activist, how to bring positive change, how to make the same statement about the Second Amendment without anybody being in danger, and with us doing something good for our community, which is what libertarians, altruism, blah, blah, blah. Because in 2013, when Adam Kokesh said that he was going to do an armed march on Washington, D.C., I said, screw you, Adam, I'm doing a toy gun march. We're going to march into Washington, D.C. with realistic-looking guns that actually can fire Nerf guns and squirt guns. People are like, you ain't got no balls, you ain't got no balls. Let me tell you something. It takes big brass balls to be a grown man and to take a Nerf gun and a realistic-looking AK-47 in front of federal cops and walk across Arlington Memorial Bridge like we did that day in the rain. So Adam Kokesh and the guys, and the anarcho-capitalists, you're all so freaking brilliant, you morons. Let me show you how to do something good for your community. This is what Augie P., the Freedom Ninja, did in Washington, D.C., July 3rd, the day before the 4th of July, like a real American patriot. Nobody got hurt, and we raised $1,000 for Toys for Tots. Watch.
Melissa, thank you. Right now, a dozen people are rallying in the fight over gun control. This morning, they marched into the district with toy guns. News 4's Derek Ward is live along the National Mall now. Derek, good morning to you.
There's me.
Good morning. You know, this may look like the aftermath of some kind of junta or something, but don't be alarmed. These are all toy guns. This is part of a protest here. They just got finished with a firefight. Well, I wouldn't say firefight, perhaps a water fight, because the only thing you're going to get down here is wet. There were just a handful of them, armed, if you will, with toy guns, super soakers, and water pistols, all to make a point about the Second Amendment right to bear arms.
And the toy gun marchers are here to say that we believe in the Second Amendment rights, we agree with the Supreme Court decision, and we are here to say that we come in peace, we are nonviolent, we want to show people that we're respectful and that we are responsible gun owners.
Responsible gun owners, they say, with a bone to pick.
We also think it's ridiculous that all across the country there are school children who are getting in trouble for playing with toy guns. And we think that that's wrong because America is a gun culture.
There had been plans to do a protest with real guns.
That was a separate group of libertarian activists that we are not affiliated with.
This group plans to make theirs a family event, a rally with face painting and some unique activities as well.
Brought our Pop-Tarts. We're going to have a contest today. Whoever can bite their Pop-Tart the best shape of a gun is going to win a prize. And we'll meet at the Washington Monument. We're going to have a little free speech, a little fun. A lot of kids are going to be here.
As fate would have it, on this day before Independence Day, they shared the Arlington Memorial Bridge with a persona also associated with protest.
I don't even know about another march across the street.
Cindy Sheehan.
Activist Cindy Sheehan was finishing up a cross-country bike ride for another cause.
We're advocating for an end to all wars, of course. And not just that, but I rode my bike because we think that this country needs to greatly reduce its addiction to fossil fuels. Because I think that's one of the main reasons we get into these wars.
Two protests, small but fervent, one for the right to bear arms and another for a plea that they not be aimed in belligerents. A typical Washington warm-up to the 4th. Now the firefight, or again the water fight, is over. Park police were actually checking out these weapons on the other side of the bridge to make sure that none of them were real. These folks have gotten their point across, and wherever you come down on the gun control issue, one of the things that they're also doing is making toy donations to charity. So some kids will be happy on the other end of this. We are live on the grounds of the Washington Monument. Derek Ward, News 4.
Derek, thank you.
Well, guys, what do you think? How about that? We raised $1,000 for Toys for Tots for kids. We made a statement about the Second Amendment because I guarantee you, the liberals in Washington, D.C. that morning were freaking out when they saw what looked like a junta walking into Washington, D.C. with realistic-looking toy guns. And the point was made, and we actually gave back to our community, actually did something for our community, rather than just acted like a couple of boys that were going to cost the community in burial prices for your dumbasses. So please do us a favor, guys, and learn how to do activism proper, because the left beats us every time in marches and rallies and protests. The conservatives can have tea parties and they're not burning anything down, but instead, no, our representatives have to show up at the police station with guns because they don't know how to solve their problems. Listen, it's real simple. A lawyer is like a gun. A good lawyer is like a good gun. And like the more you pay for a lawyer, you filthy capitalist pigs, like I know you believe, you ought to be able to get yourself a damn good lawyer. For the price that you pay for that cheap-ass beat AK-47, probably semi-automatic, not even fully. For the price that you paid for that, you could have paid for an hourly lawyer to get your rights back from whatever rights you claim were lost in the traffic stop. Which, if they were violated, then get the damn lawyer. And that's how it's done, and that's how we live in a peaceful society. But if you are a revolutionary and you think that you're going to go and defend yourself with your firearms and your rifles and your rats, well, then let me just tell you something there, Billy Bob. You better not let anybody see your gun. Have the courage of your convictions, but you don't, because you're actually just a bunch of low testosterone beta males who don't have the courage of their convictions, and you don't represent me, and please do not claim to represent gun activists, because the rest of us who do conceal carry and open carry when it's necessary are going to be the ones who die on the front lines, because edgy idiots like you will fire on Fort Sumter like the stupid rednecks you were when you did it in the first place. Ladies and gentlemen, Austin Peterson here for the Freedom Report podcast. Check out the libertarianrepublic.com, our sister site, libertyviral.com. This garbage gun right here ain't going in the trash. It's going to be right on my side, this flintlock pistol. This is not for sale either. This is my gun that I built by my hands. Hell yes to the Second Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America. When in the course of human events we have the right to alter or abolish such government with guns if necessary. But if you're going to pull the guns, ladies and gentlemen, have the balls to do it and do what the Second Amendment says. Otherwise, shut the hell up and go play some Battlefield 1. My gamer tag is on Xbox. Hit me up. I'll be on there afterwards. Have a great night, guys.